So our next presenter is an engineering specialist at Caterpillar, where he's created and developed their Knowledge in the Flow program. I've had the privilege to work with him over the past 4 years on various projects that have all challenged me and have greatly expanded my perception of what knowledge in the flow work really is. Here to present Knowledge in the Flow for in-the-moment decision-making, let's all welcome Mr. Tim Glaue.
So a little background. I've been with Caterpillar, I think, for it's been 11 years now, this last month. Before that, I was with General Motors for about the same amount of time, a little over 11 years in powertrain division. I've been with Komatsu a couple times. I've been with Rockwell Collins Commercial Avionics in Cedar Rapids, Iowa for a 9-month stint working on the Boeing 777 side cockpit display, doing some things there. I've been with Knowledge, I think, since about 1997. That's when I kind of got immersed. I actually met Jeff, I think, about that time. That's about 20 years ago. So it's been a pretty interesting journey. A little bit about Caterpillar. So Caterpillar traditionally is known as being a place that you can get machines. And these machines are, on the order of like 400 or 500 different types. Everywhere from underground mining to building construction products. And one of the ones I'm going to show a little bit today is going to be from our global paving product. So as you see, highways getting built, asphalt getting laid, we also have those products as well. I'm going to make this presentation a little different. It's going to kind of wake you up a little bit, I hope. And we're going to have more of an immersive style gamification. I'm going to have you play a game and do some fun things in this presentation. My challenge to you is after this presentation is done today, we're going to give you some instructional material so you can do it yourself. It's in teams of 4, and you can just have at it for the rest of the conference, okay? But what I do ask is that you just don't do it during somebody else's presentation, because that's probably, that's why I'm kind of doing it towards the end of mine, because you will probably do the game more than you listen to me, which is maybe not a bad thing. The guy drives down the road, and he is a person that loves animals. He sees this little bunny rabbit in the middle of the road. And as he says, well, I'm going to avoid that bunny rabbit, I got enough time to do that, he moves left. Well, it so happens that little bunny rabbit moves left. He moves right, the bunny rabbit moves right. He says, oh no, and he tries to do a quick swerve to get around, and the bunny rabbit, guess what? Gets squished. He's so upset that he gets out of the car, he's down on his knees, he's crying over this little bunny rabbit, saying, man, how in the world can I kill this bunny rabbit? Lady comes behind in her pink Cadillac, pulls up, and walks up to the man and says, what's wrong? Is everything okay? No, I just killed this little bunny rabbit. And she looked at him and says, sir, just wait a minute. She goes to the back of her car, opens up the trunk, she's rifling through some bags, she pulls out something. It's a can. She comes over, takes the can, and she starts to spray the bunny rabbit. And the bunny rabbit starts to go like this. It needs a little bit more on this side, sprays some more on this side. It kind of comes back to life, starts hopping off the side of the road, turns around, does this, keeps hopping off the side of the road, turns around some more, does this, is out in the field, does this. And he's like looking, it's kind of strange, and looks at her, how in the world did you do that? She says, it's really easy. Look on the can. It says, restores life to hair, adds permanent wave. This is hairspray. Now, the reason I bring up that story is that that's kind of what my role is in knowledge management, okay? My role in knowledge management is very similar to that story. It's the fact that we're trying to bring knowledge to life. We're not trying to bring bunny rabbits to life. We're trying to bring knowledge to life. It's in this passive state. It's in this state to where you have to search for it. How do we turn that around 180 degrees so it finds you in the flow of your work? Novel, interesting concept. And what I want to do today is kind of unpack for you what this looks like in terms of something that you're not traditionally seeing. I remember, if we can maybe, Brittany, show that first, what is it, the first survey pick? So I'm going to ask you a question. If you can go to your cell phones or to your smart devices and answer this question for me. How has your company ever used something similar to knowledge and flow techniques? So based on the way that you understand it today, what I just kind of described for you is something that we're reversing search, putting knowledge into your work processes. Do you do something like that today? And do you do it within your engineering and manufacturing fields? Okay, if you can answer that for me with one of those 4 questions, that would really help me understand where the audience is today and the way that I present. Okay, we'll give you a few seconds to do that. I think we're getting enough responses. Brittany, you want to show the results when you get a chance here? So out of these answers, it looks like frequently larger use, a little bit, attempt made, small use is probably the most. So it seems like using it maybe in those areas it might be interesting to you. So, but we're all over the map. Okay, so that gives me a good feel for where we're at. So I'm going to present to you what I presented. I'm just one slide though on what I presented about 2 years ago when I was in this conference about technical communities, just to kind of revisit that topic, because our communities and the people that are with them are the most important thing that you can do for your knowledge management programs. If you want knowledge management to be captured, not only today, but into the future, those people that you're growing within these domains, within these technical domains, are the key to that future, okay? If you capture today, but there's a half-life to that information if you're not building into your people and having that happen. So I'm going to talk about that. Another thing I want to talk about is, I appreciate Nick's presentation today. For Caterpillar, the way that we need to get adoption with these type of technologies, it's one key idea and it's one key demo. Okay, I'll say that again. It's one key idea and one key demo. I'm going to demonstrate and tell you what that key idea is that I think will help your leaders and your managers understand why this is so important. And the demo that I'm going to show is going to be a representation of something more than probably what you're doing today that could really bring home the bottom line and open up your world in ways that you've never imagined on how something like Auros can be used, okay? Then I'm going to talk about that through a demonstration. I'm going to show you that demo, give you that one key idea, show you that demo, and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we've learned within Caterpillar. Okay. I'm just going to have to spacebar, I guess. All right, so I'm going to start with our technical communities of practice. Technical communities to Caterpillar is very important. And I want somebody to tell me, if you can, why do you think communities of practice versus technical communities of practice, why do you think that we would focus on the technical community of practice? Any ideas? Why technical? Why not, we can do communities of practice, we can still do this type of thing across communities of practice, but why technical communities of practice? Any ideas? Yep. Yep, it's explicit knowledge is very important. But what I would say, the reason is because when you're capturing technical knowledge, there is the transformative logic, the algorithms, the equations can do work for you. Those things can do work for you. I put an input in, I process it through a value table, through some sort of logic, I get an output. That work can be augmented and materialized in so many different ways, even beyond the engineering and manufacturing, more of those kind of technical roles. We're talking about logistics, we're talking about suppliers, we're talking about getting out to your customers and your dealers, which I'm going to show you that part today. Starting with that end in mind, how do you get your customers with this technology? Wouldn't that be cool? All right, we're not just necessarily talking about efficiency anymore within your companies. We're talking about how do we take the same technology, put it right in the hands of the customers so they can engage, and then we just go along for the ride, okay? This knowledge, like I said before, is produced from people. Okay, when we talk about people, we're talking about the individual competencies, the skills, the fit within the job. Those type of things are just as critical as the knowledge itself. If you don't have the right people driving towards the right senior level technical positions within your domains, I'm talking about structures, it could be skid steer loaders, it could be machine specific, it could be hydraulics. I've been working this past week with thermal fluid simulation for our engine products. Okay? It could be any kind of domain, but what we want is we want to purpose-build and intentionally build our people within that technical domain so that they can achieve those higher levels. If we are not building that pipeline, that succession, people move on, right? They're moving on all the time, and they're taking that knowledge with them. They're leaving the company. They're actually retiring. These are traditional, common things that we see within knowledge management. The other thing for me as a custodian of a lot of that is that the problem is that I have to go in and I have to go and interact with those people, and it really takes a lot of time, especially as we grow a lot of these communities and they get bigger and larger. It takes more and more people. How do we make these programs self-sustaining? How do we make them interesting? How do we build engagement so that this growth actually is happening? And that's why we focus in on our technical communities, because these technical communities really help these people be able to interact, network, peer with each other, okay? It helps them to maintain the connections within the disciplines that they're interested and passionate about. It's deeper and better knowledge within that domain is produced as an output. So let's take these three concepts, knowledge, people, and technical community, and let's put it on a XYZ axis, okay? And what we're talking about here is that if I have knowledge, I'm talking about complexity and knowledge depth, so as I grow in that complexity. And contribution maturity depth is not necessarily time and seat. It's not necessarily the number of years of experience. It's the ability to contribute and apply the knowledge and apply the things that you've learned. That's the value, okay? And the community breadth is we want to do this not only in small areas, we want to do this across our company, and we want to grow in that way. So the things that you might see in the space are things like on knowledge side, sophistication, peer-reviewed or verified knowledge, sanctioned, authoritative knowledge. You're looking at people, you're saying experience, expertise, and skill. I might hire somebody. When I came in from General Motors to Caterpillar, I came into an integrated powertrain systems, managing a Tier 4 platform for motor graders. To be honest, I didn't have a clue what I was doing. Okay, I might have had all this experience from General Motors, but it's not Caterpillar's experience, and it's different. So even though I might have had experience in certain areas, the way that I'm able to apply that knowledge actually didn't happen very well. It took a while. So here's the one key idea. If there's anything that you come away with that you want to converse to your leaders, I want you to tell them this. This is what I want you to tell them. That level of required knowledge for any given decision, okay, is at some level, right? If I have any decision that you're going to make within your company, within your product development cycles, within your manufacturing processes, within maybe you have some problem resolution type of things, okay? There is a decision that needs to be made each time and every time within all your people. Now, where your people are at, maybe in one case, could be below the curve. They don't have enough knowledge to apply for that moment, right? They're brought in, hey, that person's got a master's degree. I have a master's degree. He has a master's degree. They should be able to figure that out, right? But maybe not necessarily, okay? And what we want to do is we want to close that gap as fast as possible. We want to build into our programs, our knowledge management programs, those things that starts to accelerate the gap closure of those things, okay? We're talking about being nimble, about being quick in response to getting the right decision, not just any decision, the right decision that's knowledge infused. This is where Auros comes in. It helps to bridge that gap and to bring it closer and faster together. It's not about today. I might have somebody for 20 or 30 minutes go and search for something, try to find the knowledge they need. How often does that happen? You have it in some sort of share drive. You have it in some sort of SharePoint site. You have it maybe in a file drawer in the bottom of a cabinet like I experienced. We had a guy that come back at our proving grounds 2 years after he retired just to see the guys. And they said, you know what, we always wondered where that load data was. We never could find it. Oh, he said, I know exactly where it is. They went to this locked cabinet, went down below. There was a stack of DVDs down there. Okay, there they are. They didn't know that. We don't want that situation. Now, there's other cases to where you have people that already have plenty of knowledge or have more than enough knowledge, but what happens to those people? They're getting taxed a lot. Okay, they're getting lots of phone calls. They're getting, they're having to take their mind off of whatever they're working on. They got to move over here and they got to try to help solve the problem. And they come back to what they were working on and say, oh, shoot, where was I again? and then something else happens, and they're getting pulled, right? This happens quite a lot. So we want to work on systems to where we tap. So we talk about gap, but we also want to tap. And the point is that if we can, as a company, as a group, as a team, be able to level set those decisions, so whether I'm at an inexperienced level or a more experienced level, that decision making is not sinusoidal where I have good decisions and bad decisions, it's really level. You have that default factor of saying that the default level of understanding for this given decision is going to be at least at some level of competency so that we make the right decisions that are the same. When we do that, what happens to our rework? Any ideas? Goes down, doesn't it? We're making consistent decisions all of a sudden. We're using Auros to do that, okay? So here's a couple critical to quality measures. One, look for increasing speed and efficiency to your decision making. Figure out how you can do that better. If you're at a 1x today, so for instance, you might have SharePoint, you might have a situation to where you're just searching for things, that's your system, well, that's fine. You gotta start from somewhere. How do we turn that around so it finds you in the flow of your work? How do we identify your work streams? For us, work streams there's 5 steps to that. We take a SIPOC that you find in Six Sigma, supply, input, process, output, and customer. And we take that in reverse, and we start with the customer and the output, and we say, what is the evidence of delivery for that output? Second step is process. What are the matured, efficient steps that it's taken connected to that output, that those 5 things, those 8 things, whatever they are, that will drive home that output? Third thing, what are the people? What are the tools required in order to do the tasks in step 2 that drive to the output? Everything's chain linked together. Fourth thing, competency and skill. It's great that you have people putting in the job, right? But what if they're not competent to do it? Do you ever have that kind of situation? So let's make sure that we put programs in place through our technical communities. I talked about people and knowledge. Let's put that into our communities and start to think about how do I get the right competency and skills in there? And the way we do that is we start to identify within these domains what are the differentiating skills. We can hire people. We can hire people from academics, from mid-career hires, from other companies. But what we want to do is we want to identify for that domain what are the differentiating skills over and beyond the foundational skills that we need to purpose build and grow these people the right way. Okay? Sometimes they usually range from like 4 to 7 types of skills. It's not that much. And all you have to do is define them and identify what the observable behaviors are for those skills. So that when I'm in a one-on-one session with my boss, or I'm in some sort of a review session, what you're doing is you're basically sitting across the table from each other and you're looking down these observable behaviors and say, okay, George, I'm looking at these and yep, you're doing these pretty well, but you know what, these over here, I think you could do a little bit better job and you need more experience. So I'm going to have you take these 2 classes. I'm going to have you put you on this experiential opportunity. We got this project coming up. I'm going to have you do that. I also got Sally over here. She's been doing this for quite a while, and I'm going to just have her sit with you, and you're going to mentor with her a little bit. And we're going to help you. We're going to encourage you. We're going to help you grow to where you want to grow within that domain. Okay? Purpose building, intentionally building our people. Second thing is application of the right knowledge for decisions. This is where Auros comes in. How do we make sure that we connect the right knowledge? It's somewhere in the organization, okay? Somewhere out there. We want to connect the right one. We don't want to just have any willy-nilly knowledge. It does a couple of things when you do that. One is that when you're really focused in on sanctioned authoritative knowledge in the flow of work, what happens is that you are looking at that knowledge, not just everything. When you're looking at big data, so we hear a lot about big data, right? What if we were to filter that big data to be only the data in terms of that SIPOC, in terms of that output delivery? What if we were to focus in on that data, the data that can actually be applied and applied to value? Let's focus in on that and prioritize on that knowledge, okay? We use Auros to do that. So when we start thinking this way, what happens is we get paradigm shifting velocity gains in decisions with this strategy. This is the one concept. If you get this through your leaders and say, hey, you know what? Today, to do any kind of decision like this, it takes X amount of time. We're going to be working as a knowledge management team to get down to near nil as much as possible, wherever we can, where it makes sense to do so. All right, here's our knowledge funnel. This gives you more of an archetype view, more of a 5,000-foot view of how this works. So on the left-hand side, what you see is you see this knowledge author. Typically within your companies, you're going to have people that have the knowledge or will want to do the authoring. For us, we do not have our experts do the knowledge authoring. You don't want to do that. You know why? Because you want to build into your people those that are not necessarily experts by having them do the writing, having them to write down the things that they know, then having them reviewed by the expert and find out where the gaps are. And we build that into our programs, into our people building programs, okay? I know it's kind of weird, but it really helps. It really helps you to understand where they're at, helps you to understand where we're deficient in. It helps you to grow those people in a purpose-built way so that you can get that technical expertise that you need much more quickly, fast. Now we have these technical communities. I talked about the technical communities of practice. We use those as a filter for the funnel. So I don't care, even if you're an expert within that community, you still go through the filter. It's very important that you peer review your information, your knowledge. In this case, when you're building KPACs, you have to have some governance around that. Let's put some of that in there, make sure that you're peer reviewing with your peers there. And then what we have is we have a subset of knowledge that we then have links to, in your reference KPACs, you can put those links in there so you can know where that knowledge is, where you're getting that information from. It's a subset of the larger picture of all that knowledge, whether it's internal or external company. Now I'm going to jump past translation knowledge. I'm going to go right to the customer or to the consumer. So we have knowledge consumers. They're displayed in a number of different ways. We want to be agnostic to tools. We want to be agnostic to what they want, because we want to be where they're at. We want to put knowledge to where they're at, wherever they're at in their process. We want to make sure that knowledge is valued and available to them in the ways that they can consume it. Because the way that you all do your work and the way I do my work is different. The way you understand your world and the way that you can really make decisions much more quickly is different than the way I make those decisions. And so we want to figure out what that is. We want to be working our UX. Okay, I don't know if you have user experience teams within your company. We have user experience and customer experience teams. We focus in on some of that to make sure that we're getting the right consumer display. But we also want to guard the door, right? Only access at the level of access that they need. Compartmentalize your information, make sure it's only the relative information that they need for that moment. Sometimes, we have something that's confidential read, $100 million value or higher. We don't want to necessarily give that to everybody. Export rules are sometimes important too, between countries, things to think about. Now, in the flow knowledge, what we want to capture is a little bit different than what we've been capturing traditionally. Traditionally, we write documents, we write guides and things like that, but what we want to start to figure out now in this new digital age versus what we traditionally did with capturing documents and books and so forth is to really start working in on getting those algorithms, those translational logic that we need that helps us to do work is what we're looking for here. It's not necessarily maybe what we've traditionally, so we're going to see a lot more scripting now in this world, right? We're going to see a lot more of different ways to figure out how do I take some sort of input and generate some sort of output. Take a schematic, go through some sort of process, and then I generate a whole list of deliverables in my knowledge-based application for valve bodies or something like that. Now, the thing that we also want to think about where Auros comes in is this vitality feedback loop. So the knowledge itself, is it healthy? Is knowledge healthy? We don't want to deliver if it's not healthy, right? Only the knowledge is healthy. So we want to have a feedback loop. We also want to contribute back from those people as they learn, and then go through a cycle of being able to feed that also back into our knowledge stores as well as they learn. And we want to be there every step of the way. We want to know when they're making those decisions or not making those decisions. We want to know when they're not looking at things or they are looking at things. We want to be there, and we want to start putting in that tracking so we understand that difference. That delta is so important to the future of our company. I cannot describe it any more importantly than that. That delta is very important. Okay. Enough of that. I think it's time to have some fun. So I think you got the basic concept. I've shown you the basic concept that we want to get down to that key decision. Knowledge, Auros can help you get there. How do we make sure we make the right decisions in the moment? Okay, in the flows that I'm working on. We don't want to take people away from that flow and to go over here and do something and come back, because you're going to lose them. They're going to get lost in all the complexity, especially as we're, I don't know about you, but we're seeing our teams being asked to do more and more with less and less. And it's getting to a point where it's getting so complex that people are starting to pull their hair out. They're sweating. They're not thinking through the job. They're just trying to get work done, and I want to get them out of that situation. Auros is going to help. Okay, let's talk about these paving models. So I'm just, out of the 400 or 500 different products that we have, I'm going to show you a couple models here. So we have a asphalt paver. That's the one that's in the upper left-hand corner that we produce. We produce a whole lot of different models. And in here, what they do is on the left-hand side of that machine, there's a truck that comes up and backs up on the highway, and then we'll dump this asphalt. It comes from the plant. It will dump this asphalt into the hopper. It processes it through, heats it, and then on the right-hand side there where you see that bar, there's usually a person that stands on the left and a person that stands on the right, and they're making sure that they get a nice, smooth screed coming off the back of that asphalt paver. So you lay a nice asphalt layer on top of the roadway. On the right, we have these compactors, okay? They're rollers, compactors, breakdown compactor, intermediate compactor. We even have, in some cases, some final compactors that's a mile down the road. Their point is to take these two sealed drums, and they're vibratory a little bit, so they're really compacting that even more, and they're pressing it in there so we can not have cracking later on, and it really does a good job, right? So we want to use those things. I'm going to have you understand these machines here for our demo today. So here's what it looks like in a train. So here's a truck. It's got an asphalt paver there. It's got a breakdown compactor, an intermediate compactor. And on the side of the road, there's going to be a supervisor. So there's going to be four roles in this game. You're going to have a supervisor, AP for asphalt paver, BC for breakdown compactor, and IC for intermediate compactor. Use any device you want. I'm going to give you all the login credentials. I think Brittany has all that information. We're going to hand that out here in a minute. I'm going to go through the demo once, and then we'll hand out that information so that you can do it. So here on the left, you can see you can have an iPad. You can do it on your computer. You can do it on your smart device, okay? So here's the goals. When you see J2P, up here in the upper left-hand corner, J2P means job to plan. So what we're going to use Auros for is we're going to say, I'm an operator. I'm going to run my machine. Is it per the plan that we outlined? Okay. We have a plan for this machine. When we worked with Minnesota Department of Transportation, they have specific things that they do in the morning to say you need to have a certain number of passes every time you roll over that. For each one of these machines, they kind of configure all that out. We have calculations for pave cool. There's these machines don't run based on coverage. They run based on about temperature of the screed. So if I'm 300 degrees Fahrenheit coming off the back of the asphalt paver, I'm about 260, 280 with that first compactor, and maybe about 240 degrees Fahrenheit. We want to make sure we're rolling it over that at the right times and so forth, okay? So I'm going to have you run 3 minutes of simulation time. So on this is a supervisor screen. So here on the right, you'll see these little windows on the right of where the red, yellow, green colorization. I apologize for those that might be colorblind. But Auros can do it not only in colors, we can do numbers, we can do anything like that if you want to have that kind of indication, if you have that interest. We're going to set up these machines, and in the lower part there's this thing that says time and there's score. So what you're looking for is a golf score. Every time you go to a yellow or a red, I'm going to add some points to your score. All right, so you're trying to keep your overall train, the whole paving train, to work efficiently and keep them in the green. That's the boundary conditions that we've set, and we're going to give you speed control for your machines. All right, so let's go ahead and let's run this thing. And I also have a couple iPads. If you're having difficulty, I've already have these set up so we can play this game. You're going to be getting a number there on where it says, what does that say? It says create there, workspace ID. So for your 4-player team, your ID is what connects you to the other players, okay? So if it's number 62, then make sure that everybody else on your team is number 62 as well. Okay, so you'll see here that I'm going to have you go in your browser to https://caterpillar.auros.ks.com/paver-app. That same first part of that, you'll go in this Auros URL here, and then you'll hit this create ID. We're going to launch the supervisor app. So the supervisor sets up the machines before you start. So you're going to set up the gameplay. Anytime you want to see what's going on in Auros, we provide this little arrow for you, okay? So you can do that. So let's go ahead and set up the first machine, the asphalt paver. You have your own login credentials. They'll be handed out on your sheet for that. Only good for the conference. Now, I want to describe what you're seeing here. So what you're seeing here is everything in green comes from our asphalt compaction design guide. It's available, it's out there, there's nothing confidential about that. We actually publish that in a book form, and you can order one of those off of our paving.cat.com site and get your own copy. It doesn't cost, I think it's free if you keep it digital. So the things that are green come right from the design guide. The things that are in white require user input, so I'm going to put in some values for feet per minute. I'm going to have this paver speed for the paver go at 23 feet per minute, and we'll have the temperature of that screed that I talked about to be 300 degrees Fahrenheit. So when I resolve, what happens is Auros, the Auros engine is used here. It takes this information, it goes to the server, does this comparison, does these inputs, how they compare with what I expected how it to work, okay? And then it comes back with a result. In this case, it comes back green, but look what happened to the supervisor. Even though we set the machine up correctly, the supervisor already is at a yellow state. Yellow to us means is that within the boundary conditions, okay, it's getting near the boundary condition. You're okay, but it's not really optimal. You want to really hit the sweet spot. It tells you a little bit of a message and says that your paver speed is greater than your plant production rate. So what that means is that the plant that's creating this asphalt, okay, and putting it onto the trucks can't make it fast enough and bring it out to the job site fast enough. Let's go to the next one. So then the supervisor is going to set up the two compactors. You do this little pull down here, and here's all the Caterpillar models that we make, okay? Your job to make this efficient is that you need to figure out and pick the right machines for the job. I'm not going to tell you the answer. I know the answers, but I'm not going to tell you the answer. And we're going to see if you can eventually figure it out through the course of the conference, okay? And if anybody comes back with a 0, let me know. That would be awesome. I might hire you. All right. So you pick a machine, and I don't know, I'll pick one. And we're going to put 3 minutes in there. I want you to run 3-minute simulations. Once again, you resolve, or you just resolve and close. Okay? And the beauty of this is that what we do is this is just a simulation, but imagine that we're taking this information and we're putting it on a machine so that machine controls are being used, not us doing these inputs or just playing with a digital display that's in HTML5, right? What if we were to attach this to actual machine controls? Or what if we took sensors off the machine to know about humidity? Could that be an input? Or maybe there's something else. Maybe there's a drone flying overhead and I want to put its position in the right place. It's not in the right position, or whatever, okay? What I'm trying to describe for you, and then, hold on, let me run this. I'm going to close that. All right, so when you're all ready, so we set up the machine, and I don't know what happened to my other screen. Oh, here it is. So we'll come in here and we're going to launch these now. So now you're ready to launch. Here's your control interfaces. So I'm going to launch them all on the screen, but you'll have your own individual iPads and smartphones and so forth, okay? So you'll control these, this input. And as you control the input, it changes the values. What this is The asphalt paver is, or I'm sorry, the breakdown compactor is doing its passes. We just set it up ahead for 3 runs, and you'll try to control the speeds on these. I don't know why the color's not coming on. I might not have the right information on these, but it's just taking a while. It's just the internet connection. Okay. So you want to adjust the speed, but every time you adjust the speed, what's happening? Well, what Auros can do is it can actually capture that information every time you make a decision. Once again, what's my focus? We're trying to get to that moment and getting the right decision in those moments. So what Auros is capturing is who's making the change, timestamp, date stamp, it's all within Auros in the parameter view. Let's take a look at what that looks like. So in a user experience perspective, you only want to show that operator only the specific things that they need to know about. But in reality, there's a whole list of things, right? And that's probably what your engineers on halfway around the world are actually watching. If they actually log into that actual work being performed, they can go in and see all the different values, how they're changing, like Christmas tree lights, red, yellow, green, or whatever like that. And you can understand that type of thing. So we want to go to parameter layout. And I apologize, I think my internet's not working very well. But you'll go into page layout, and then it'll show all those parameters, okay, with that arrow. So I'd like for you to do that, and you're going to have a break, and that's why I like having these breaks. You'll try to do that, keep all these greens so that your supervisor's happy, and they're not calling you and saying, hey, you know what, your breakdown compactor guy is not doing too well here. So they need to make some changes, okay? So you'll be talking to each other. And the thing that's really fascinating to me is when you do this type of thing, it's the teaming. It's the focus on the people. It's the focus on the teaming and how they're using and applying knowledge in the moment. That's really interesting. You're learning as you go. Okay? This isn't a classroom anymore. What we're talking about is using Auros to learn on the job as you're doing work. Okay? That's something that's just profound for me, that gives you that capability. So I'm working with our corporate learning teams. They're excited. I mean, it's really interesting how it actually plays. So let's get back to your presentation, and then I'll close, because I think I'm getting close to time. Oh, I'm already over time, sorry. All right, I have a wrap-up slide. So there it is in the lower right-hand corner. That's the parameter view. You'll see those changes depending on where you're at. You'll have to hit a refresh, I think at F5 or something on your browser. On the right-hand side, it says last modified on. That'll tell you when the last change was made. Okay, you can track these changes. The main point here, though, is that we want to put knowledge where the decisions are. We want to put knowledge where the decisions are, okay? It's different than what we've traditionally done with knowledge management. I can't emphasize that enough. We've been really applying within our company a lot of search tools, trying to make those search tools better. We have, we're capturing data, we're capturing PowerPoints, we're doing all sorts of things. How do we reverse that and put the knowledge where the decisions are? Understand the user, understand your customer better. This is just one example of many examples that you could probably do within your company. Can you consider things that your customers are doing and how that knowledge can be applied to their benefit, okay? By doing this comparison, leveraging Auros' comparisons through this assessment to be able to understand this is where we expected. Red is not bad, by the way. You might be seeing red on yours, but that's not bad. That just means it's different than what we expected, right? So I want to say thank you to Emergent Systems to have this done. It took us 4.5 weeks. So for me to get to our leaders, we can talk about the benefits of efficiency and things like that, but you know what really gets to my leaders is showing a result and showing a result right now in terms of customer. They get the point, they see the value, they understand the one key decisions, the key that we're trying to go after, which is to make those decisions more efficient. They understand that, and they look at the demo, and they get it, all right? That is what sells for us, at least. Don't say, and we're using application engineers to do this from Auros, so they can help you to get to that for you. So think about that. Is there something within your company, this is outside traditional engineering and management areas, that you can use the same capability for? Okay, is there some other questions that we might be able to do in the survey, Brittany? Should we try another one? Let's do the next question in the survey. So this is just to help me out. I want to be able to present to you all better than I did last time. And I'm always looking to improve. I could really use your help. Is this making sense? Does this make sense for your teams? Can you tell me and give me a little insight on that? That's what we're asking. Does this generate new ideas for you? Or maybe we're really off the rocker and we're not in something that you're interested in, okay? Okay, we're good? All right, we'll show some results for that. Definitely see value. Thanks a lot. It tells me that maybe you and I should be talking a little bit more and maybe getting some ideas, okay? All right, we have one more question. I think we have the last one, right? It's a yes-no question. And then we'll close. So if you're interested in learning more, yes or no, Steve Boisfort was very helpful to this. Vitaly Gonchar was very helpful. Venkaya Yadida, I was hoping I could see him today, but he wasn't going to make it today. Their whole team, Greg Burrick, their whole team was fantastic. Kurt Domke behind the scenes, I know he was doing a lot of work, even though he may not actually say so. And then we had our own Caterpillar team. So that's all I have for my presentation. Is there any questions? I guess I'll leave it up for a couple questions, if you have any questions. Yep. Sanjay.
On, I think, your third slide, you were showing a picture of the knowledge funnel.
Yep.
And you had a door on it, right?
Yep.
And you were talking about the value of that, what that knowledge may be worth, and you were talking about, you picked a number, an arbitrary number, you said, well, if it's worth 60 million, we won't share it with you were talking about access. My question is, how are you actually assessing the value of certain pieces of knowledge?
Good question. So to repeat the question, what's the value of certain pieces of knowledge versus the value of other pieces of knowledge that's not valued? The way we determine value is from its source. Where's the source from? So when we build our technical communities, we tell them this. We say, you're a technical community for hydraulics, and anywhere within the organization, because we're cross-organization with our communities, we say, you're the go-to team when it comes to hydraulics. When anybody asks me anything about hydraulics, you're the team that I'm going to. You have the answers. They're given the authority. They have to be given the authority to be that. Second thing is then whatever knowledge they have within their books of knowledge, we tap into that. We don't go anywhere else. We tap into that for that specific function. So that tells me that as we build our communities, right now we're at, I think last time I was here it was like in the 30s. We're now like almost in the mid-50s now, so we're really growing them. We're really focused in on trying to get them to take ownership of their piece of knowledge and then tap into it. And then they're the go-to team. I'm not the person that has the knowledge, concerning that, but we make them the go-to team, and we put them in the Auros as much as we can for their COP, okay? Globalization of parameters and so forth, so that we have access to that knowledge. Any other questions?
You're doing this from within HR department, is that what your title?
That's right. Kind of cool, huh? And the reason I'm an engineer, I've come up in new technology my whole career. The reason I'm sitting here is because there's a extreme interest in making sure that we don't lose the people side of things. Because everything we're talking about is all centered around enhancing people's productivity and experience to be able to apply their knowledge and what they know into the process. So they felt for me to be there, it's a much better mix. But however, I'm really working cross-organizationally with all our tech stewards, all our chief engineers, very well known there and making a lot of good connections. It's a good question. Any other questions? I think I'll take one more and then we'll have to close, I think, for break. So I don't want to keep you from your break. All right. All right, well, thank you very much.